everybody, this is Joe Joseph, and this is the DailySheeple.com's Daily News Brief. Now, for this Daily News Brief, folks, and for the next, I don't know, until I'm through this, I'm going to take you through history. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because I've seen a lot of people buy into personalities instead of substance, instead of ideas, or perhaps fundamentals or values or virtues, whatever you want to call them. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to take history and we're going to let history tell a story. And voices throughout history are going to tell you in their own words what the plan is and how it should be executed, all the way from 1776 to the present day. And I think you'll come to find this extremely fascinating, because one of the major pieces of the puzzle, the big parts of the plan, if you will, is the removal of God from society. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, no, a Bible thumper. It doesn't matter what you define God as, okay? It doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Jew or a Muslim. It doesn't matter any of that. I'm talking about doing away with spirituality. And it's extremely important as far as their plan is concerned, because they can't get away with it without it. Because what they need to do is get you off of faith in another, say, in God, and take it and shift your faith over to the government God. They want you to worship the government. They want you to depend on government. And they'll do whatever it takes in order for that to happen. And they've already done it to a great extent. That's what President Johnson's whole, the whole equality thing, that's what happened with the equality thing, is it actually brought people down and made them, got them addicted to what is deemed as free money, but really is not free money at all. And it's really caused a lot of issues as far as, stagnation, as far as advancement in the world. If you take a look at our education statistics, they're deplorable, especially compared with where we were in the 1950s before the government took over. And we could go through all government programs, and say, hey, were we better off before or after? And I can tell you we were better off before. So this is a walk through history, and it's going to go over probably the course of a week to give you an idea and a background as to why we're where we are today. And perhaps, my friends, perhaps when this is all said and done, we can then go forward and have a better idea of where we're going. Because I think history is going to tell us a story. And when we're done, we should have a pretty good idea of, does President Trump have control of things? Is he as independent as he claims to be? And where is his policies and his agendas going to take us? And I think you'll have a better idea. So, without further ado, here we go. All right. 1773. We'll start 3 years before the Declaration of Independence was even signed. Okay? Mayor Amschel Rothschild assembles 12 of his most influential friends and convinces them that if they all pool their resources together, why, they can rule the world. Now, this meeting takes place in Frankfurt, Germany. And the Rothschilds also informs his friends that, he's found the perfect candidate, an individual of incredible intellect and ingenuity to lead the organization that he's planned. And believe me, Mayor Amschel Rothschild was not a slouch, okay? This guy was a hustler. I mean, in terms of, being the elite of the elite, you're talking about one of the ancient bloodlines that Fritz Springmeier talks about. But this guy knew how to move it and shake it. And so when he was planning out his new organization, he knew exactly who he wanted to lead it. And that, my friends, was Adam Weishaupt. Now, Adam Weishaupt, codenamed Spartacus, because, if you're part of an elite circle, like the Skull and Bones and all that, why, you've got to have a fancy code name to go along with everything. But Spartacus establishes a secret society called dun dun dum, the Order of the Illuminati. Now, Weishaupt is a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt in Bavaria, which is part of Germany. And the Illuminati, my friends, seek to establish what we know today as the New World Order, or a New World Order. Now, what, my friends, are the objectives of a New World Order? Well, Adam Weishaupt defined their objectives as, 1, the abolition of all ordered governments. They want one body that oversees everything, the entire world. 2, abolition of private property. Now, we see an attack on private property all the time, but it's accelerated here over the last 10 years with something known as civil asset forfeiture. Now, we've seen civil asset forfeiture pick up in speed and intensity to the point now where we have a lot of backlash from the people towards their governments, and we're seeing legislation now put in place in a couple of states that have now outlawed civil asset forfeiture. Why? Because it's taking people's private property without due process, meaning they don't even have to be charged with a crime. That is the unbelievable part of it all, is that the police just come in, and you've seen many videos, I'm sure, if you know what civil asset forfeiture is, you understand, hey, how much cash do you have in the vehicle tonight? You hear that all the time. The answer is, eat it. That's really what it is. Go get a warrant, bucko. Number 3, abolition of inheritance. Of course, we here in the United States have the estate tax. And the estate tax taxes, I think it's anything over $1 million or $5 million. I can't remember what it is, but anything over a certain threshold is taxed at 55%. 55%. So something that is not the government's, something that your father, grandfather, whoever it was that left you an inheritance, if it's over X amount of money, and I want to say it's anywhere like $1 million to $5 million, above and beyond that, you're taxed at 55%. Now, why did they do that? Well, they say they did that because they don't want anybody becoming another robber baron, another Rockefeller, another Rothschild. That's what they say. However, there's many ways around it, with trusts and certain legal vehicles that allow you to be able to overcome that threshold. But really what it's made to do is to keep people from getting up to their level. You see, they're already there. They just don't want other people up at their level. They like the club and the size of it. They don't want other people in the club outside of their bloodlines, which are, of course, very important to them. Number 4, abolition of patriotism. They don't like patriotism. They don't like the idea of accountability, of people feeling strong about their nation. Now, me personally, I cannot anymore, pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth. Now, a lot of people may get upset about that. Well, it's not the cloth, it's what the cloth represents. Okay, let's talk about what the cloth represents, because it's not what we want to say it represents. We have to talk about the substance of what it actually represents. And when we look at that in its totality, do you really want to pledge allegiance to that flag and what it represents? Because it's not all baseball and apple pie and hamburgers and, picnics in the summertime. It's not that simple. And we don't get to pick and choose what it represents because you have to take it all in. And when you take it all in, I really don't dig it. But I do feel strongly about certain ideals, especially what this country, when it was established, what the founding principles were and what they represent. And of course, they represented max liberty with the least amount of government interference. Government, its function was to protect your rights, not take them away, or not under the guise of peace and safety, take them away. That's not its purpose or was its original intent. The original intent of government was to protect the rights of the people. So somehow, some way, it got twisted. We'll see how that happened. Number 5, abolition of the family. We can see that happening in present day. Anybody that's my age, in your 40s, you can look back 20 years and just see how the family structure, the family unit, has slowly but surely just eroded to the point where it's become a crisis, not just in the United States, in the world in general, and where it's really hitting hard, especially in some of these island nations in the Pacific, are birth rates. I mean, there's a crisis going on in many countries because the birth rates are alarmingly low because people don't want to have children anymore. See, the programming has worked. The Agenda 21 has worked. We're seeing populations in the next 10 to 20 years are going to plummet because people aren't having enough children. In Thailand, it's a crisis. I mean, they're actually encouraging people. Pretty soon, it's going to be, they're going to force people to procreate. I don't think they understood just how far-reaching the damage is when you institute population control programs that we have seen, coupled with the demoralization of society. When you do that, of course the family's going to get abolished. And then your values and virtues go out the window. I mean, it's just a cascading failure. Number 6, abolition of religion. Again, I cannot say this enough. One of the major reasons, and if it was me, if I was going to put this up as far as, or try to label this as far as importance and level of importance, I would say number 6, but I would take out religion. Because that, first of all, understand, and people may think I'm nitpicking here, but I'm not nitpicking at all. There's power in every word that you use. There's power in all words. And we have to be careful about what words we choose to use when we use them. And in this case, I would say abolition of spirituality. That connection with a higher power. That connection that when you feel down and there's nowhere else to turn, you know that higher power, and in my case, God, Jehovah, his son Yeshua, Hamashiach, the Messiah. That connection is what gets me through things. Even I've suffered a lot of personal crisis over the last 6 months. And even in the depths of it all, and believe me, it was dark and it was deep. I never once, not one day, did I go to any government entity or institution and ask for help. Part of this deep, dark thing is I lost my job. Unemployment? Hell no. I don't want the state's help. When you open that door, it's like opening a door to a demon. It never shuts. That door is always open. It's always there. You open that door and you're in for a lifetime of misery. Because They will bother you. They will involve themselves in your life if you give them the opportunity. Don't dig it at all. And finally, 7, the creation of a world government. Of course, that being the ultimate end goal. Something that we might see with a Trump administration. You don't know that. And of course, the United States could be the center of that. I don't know. You don't know how this is all going to play out. You don't know what a personality like Trump, what he can do around a negotiating table, what he can do with all the nations put together, and come and you don't know what's going to happen. Hell, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that this is one goal. One way they can do it, of course, is coming up with a world currency, maybe doing away with all paper cash and going to a credit-based monetary system. It's something that they've wanted for a very long time, and something that I think that we'll see achieved here in the near future just because of the amount of debt and the amount of bubbles, the parabolic bubbles that are being inflated both in the stock market. You see them in educational loans here in the United States. You have debt bubbles that are ready to burst in Italy and Greece. I mean, you're talking about the potential for a very, very large cascading failure or contagion that can take place. So, very interesting things are afoot here, but these are the 7 goals of the Illuminati. Now, in 1782, in July of 1782, the Order of the Illuminati joined forces with Freemasonry at the Congress of Wilhelmsbad. The Comte de Vrieux, an attendee at the conference, comes away visibly shaken. And when questioned about the tragic secrets he brought back with him, this is what he said, quote, "I will not confide them to you. I can only tell you that all of this is very much more serious than you think." From this time on, according to his biographer, the Comte de Vrieux could only speak of Freemasonry with horror. And let's be clear, when this nation was established, Freemasonry was at the very heart of its establishment. And we'll get into that later on as well, because that, my friends, is extremely important and something to understand. Freemasonry is so much more than cheap drinks on Thursday night with the fellas. So much more than that. So we have to understand that and be very clear on that. Okay, so that is the end of part one of this educational presentation on a history of the New World Order and why it's so important to remove God from society. I'm Joe Joseph. I will have this again for you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.